Gunner Podcast. Get up, it's the Steve Gunner Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Steve Gunter Podcast, where we discuss the strategies, the steps, and the mindset of real estate investing tailor-made for the pro athlete. I'm your host, Steve Gunter, and it's an honor and privilege to be with you today. Look, folks, today we got Greg Hitter on the pod with us, luxury real estate agent in the Scottsdale, Arizona market, an active investor, to an advisor to high-profile clients, let me tell you, and member of the Compass Sports and Entertainment Division. Greg, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Welcome to Scottsdale, man. I had to do the sunglasses.
Absolutely.
I told you, we wear sunglasses everywhere down here. I'm just kidding with you, but some people do, but I don't. So I wanted to start off knowing that I'm coming to you from Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And those some cool shades, by the way, too, man. I got to borrow them from you. Look, dude, so you and I, we spent a little bit of time together a few weeks back at the NFL Combine, which was pretty cool. And we got a chance to just kind of hang with some pretty cool people. But Greg, I got to be honest with you. One of the things that really impressed me about you was your storytelling abilities. Like, dude, you're like a true storyteller. I felt like I was in the presence of Abe Lincoln or somebody like that.
Come
I mean,
on.
just, yeah, like just the ability to connect. Like, seriously, like who taught you that? Or is that something you've always had in you?
Gosh, that's a great question, man, and happy to be here and connect. And it was nice hanging out with you in Indianapolis at the Combine. I guess you just refine it. Comes with age, right? Knowing that we all have a certain amount of time in certain settings, so you create an opportunity to tell a story in an efficient way. To know that I appreciate you noticing. It's fun to tell stories, and like I said, based on my age, I got a lot of stories.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, you've been in business a long time, over 25 years. Take me back to when you first got started in business, Greg, and how you know, the challenges that you faced, but even more importantly, how you were able to take those challenges and turn them into opportunities.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I got licensed 26 years ago, somewhere in the mid 90s, 94, 95. And this dates it because we're going through some changes in the real estate world. Back then, the MLS was private. And when it went public, we thought the earth was going to end, right? We thought that once we give the information to the consumer that it was going to eliminate the need for a real estate agent. Well, that was the furthest from the truth. And so we had private MLS. We went public with the internet. And I got in business down here. I've been here 36 years in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area. I gravitated towards real estate because it's a really good way. I love people. I love the social aspect. I'm obsessed with this business in a great way because we get to interact with so many cool people, not just in the athlete, professional sports world, but just in everyday life. And so I connect in real estate because I love the people, I love the energy, I love the hustle, so to speak. I love the business aspect. Every opportunity we have is sort of like ramping up a business transaction with the highest level of VIP treatment and hospitality. So that's really why I'm here. I love it. I love working with people like you all across the country, other agents. We mastermind, we collaborate, and we refer business back and forth. And that's the beauty of Compass and Sports and Entertainment Division.
You know, you're a very relational person, it seems. And I've spoken to a few agents, and what I've learned is that all the great agents have great relationships, you know, with people. Was that something that you had to cultivate, or is that, you know, something that you've always had instilled in you as well? Just kind of, you know, that ability to connect with people and build relationships.
Good question. relationships for me started out growing up in a big ethnic family in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, many, many years ago. And cousins on top of cousins, and church and community, and being around people all over the place, and breaking bread everywhere we went. And just knowing that I had to communicate with these people, whether they be close cousins or distant churchgoers, right, in the community. And so you learn very quickly, as the youngest of four boys, you learn how to get along, fit in, and communicate so that people know you, like you, and trust you. I just didn't know it back then, but I believe that skill set has translated to where we are now at many years in the real estate business. I believe that skill set and being out in the forefront of the community has translated to being able to handle it now in this current environment.
Yeah. So like the importance of having a tribe, man. A while ago, are you familiar with Seth Godin, the author?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Does that name sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I really enjoy diving into a lot of his books and such. And one of the books that Seth wrote that just really spoke to me was Tribes. And in that book, he was just talking about, like, you don't need to try and get everybody and appeal to everybody. You just need your group. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just need that few those few groups of people who you're speaking to, and you're serving that audience. You are focusing on surprising them and giving them the type of attention and care that they need in your business, because you have a luxury business. Do you find yourself taking that same approach?
Yes. I think when you were speaking, it came to mind, like how, I took the family paradigm and environment growing up, and then I catapulted it reminds me of a time when I was in college and I was bartending and driving. I was a personal limo driver for a very wealthy Iowa family, which is unusual in Iowa to have a limo, right? In the 80s. I'm dating myself now. You're going to start doing the math. And I watched this family, how they moved, every move, especially the father and the husband, Bill. His name was Bill Rissy. I can share that name because I remind his kids when I see them. He had 7 or 8 kids, and I'm close to them to today. And I watched how he moved in his business in the community. He owned restaurants, but he also had a big manufacturing business in the agricultural and highway equipment. I tell the story because I watched him. This is what I remembered the most about how uber wealthy people move in this world. And I watched him walk in the kitchen every day. He'd come for lunch to the restaurant. He wasn't managing the restaurant, but he was one of the advisors and investors for his son, who was a chef. And I tell this story because he walked in the kitchen every day. He was there for lunch and said hi to the chef all the way down to the dishwasher and called them all by name and asked them how their day was going. And that happened every day. And I remembered that. And I look at that, and that's sort of our world now, which is, I'm not the uber wealthy guy like him, but he taught me a lesson in how to treat people. And we come across all walks of life in this real estate business. And I try and treat everybody very, very similarly, not only just to him, but whether it's a professional athlete or first-time home buyer in the under non-luxury range. I try and treat everybody like that. And I think it's important because it translates in this world, and it makes everybody a lot happier.
And you know something, that's one of the reasons why, Ritz-Carlton, the hotel, talks about luxury being an experience. It's not about, the price point. It's delivering an experience, a level of service, regardless of, whatever the price point may be. And I liken that to our business as well. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think that's essentially what you're saying as well, is it doesn't matter the customer, first time home buyer, all the way up to, the guy who's purchasing a $20 million property. It's all the way that we approach the service.
Yes, that's correct.
Mm.
If it's about character and integrity and transparency and honesty, and when you can walk in that world, and I go back to Bill Rissy and, saying hello to the dishwasher. I had a situation where I was at a house yesterday. The house manager called me. The clients moved. It's a lot going on, and I wasn't the best at this when I first got in the business, but I learned and I remembered how Bill approached it with his people. They were his employees. These aren't my employees, but it's very similar to where when you treat everybody at that highest level of respect and with the utmost integrity, it's just a better way to walk through life.
I totally agree. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and my father, he is a car mechanic, and he's owned his, he's been a small business owner forever, as long as I can remember, since I was a child, and so his shop is pretty much downtown Cleveland, and to the point that you're making in terms of, going around and shaking everybody's hands, asking them how they're feeling, how they're doing, how's your family, how's the kids, etc. I've watched him do that with all of the guys who've come to work for him. In fact, there's a little breakfast diner a block away that he used to take me and my brothers to, and we would, hang out. It's called Landmark, and we would hang out there with Dad, and Dad would, shake all the waiters' hands, and then he'll, ask for the owner, and the owner would come out and, how's it going, Mr. Gunner, blah, blah, blah. And my dad would just see how things are going. But I mean, all of these people have also become customers of his, but also really good friends. And I think, we're in a very similar business. I'm pretty sure you have many stories that you can share with that similar, sort of approach.
Yeah. One thing comes to mind as I reflect on my childhood and growing up in the Midwest, sort of like you did in Ohio. Mm-hmm. Good, hard, honest work is what we used to call it. I grew up in a family of 4 boys in a 950 square foot house, 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom.
Wow. Are you the oldest, or where do you fall in the rank?
I'm the youngest, and there's 11 years between me and the oldest.
Yeah.
But the reason I tell that story is because we didn't know what we didn't have. I didn't have my first brand new pair of tennis shoes until my junior year in high school. You remember the shoe goo? You just close the hole up with the shoe goo and pass it on down to the younger brother.
That's right.
And so I tell that story because the environment I grew up in was magical, from a sense that we grew up in a small house in an area where you had the poorest, the middle class, and the richest kids all going to school together. Very diverse, black, white, yellow, brown. And we have, on my dad's side, they immigrated from the Middle East. So we had all walks of life and all social economic classes. And all the country club rich friends were always at my house because my parents were sober, they were home, and there was always food at the table. And so we hung at my house, even though it was the smallest house. And that was the start of the environment that I try and teach my kids. But I want to tell you a story about that. My dad, everyone's got that slippery friend.
Yep.
My dad had a friend similar like that. And the friend said, we were sitting at a diner one time, and I was in grade school probably, but I remember it because we told the story many times. The friend said to my dad, he was going to get a newspaper. Do you remember the old newspaper dispensers? You put in a quarter, you open it up, you could take one or you could take all of them.
Yep. I still read the newspaper, by the way, Greg.
Oh, do you? That's
good. I still read the newspaper. I still get delivered every single week. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
So the dispenser had a stack of newspapers, and it was the honor system. You put in a quarter, you take one. But if you were slippery, you could take all of them. Well, the friend said to my dad, do you want a newspaper? My dad said, yeah. And he reached in his pocket for a quarter and gave it to his friend. Louis was his name. And he said, I don't need it. Nobody will know. Mm-hmm. And my dad said, I'll know.
Yep.
And so that's what integrity to me is, and that's the foundation of life and friendships and relationships and business all the way through. There is no gray area.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, man. So today, Greg, you have a client database and network that is, I guess one way to put it is very exclusive. You work with a lot of sports figures and business leaders and people in various industries and such. How did you get into that space? Was it something in your mindset that said, you know what, I want to occupy this space, or was there some other set of circumstances that brought you to that point?
Well, it certainly wasn't because of my talent on the football field.
What position did you play, man?
Oh man, I tried to hang on as long as I could. I went to a Division III school in the Midwest called Coe College, COE.
Yeah.
And I ran a 4.9 once.
Okay. You broke the force.
I was a wide receiver, to put that into perspective.
That's awesome.
So it wasn't from being really good on the football field.
Sure.
I loved sports and I tried to play as long as I could.
Yeah.
But anyway, to answer your question, I was always surrounded by really good athletes in high school and college, guys that played at the highest level, Division I, that also had dads that were coaches, and then maybe had some guys around them, families that were really successful in sports. Mm-hmm. And I learned at an early age sort of how to communicate in that world, if you will. And then when I got into real estate down here, many years later, probably 2014, when I really started focusing on pro athletes and professional sports, I started an Instagram account. So you're asking for trade. I'm giving away some trade secrets here.
Yeah.
Instagram started becoming really popular. I have an Instagram account, pro.athletes.realestate. And I started posting some nice luxury homes on there back when you could tag guys and girls, pro athletes, high profile people. And I tagged a few guys on some cool houses and started communicating and connected some dots in the finance world, business advisors and financial advisors and attorneys and sports agents. And I just started connecting the dots, and I got my one first big deal. I don't like to name names just because that's part of the whole shtick is, privacy and protection of identity is big.
Of course.
But that's why you don't see any pictures on the internet with guys that I've worked with, or I don't ask for pictures or autographs. If they offer, I'll do it. But so that was sort of my start into it. And then I would say at my age, you can do it at any age, but I especially guys that have, like you, that played, you just start to understand I call it the cadence of the pro athlete, right? Not necessarily where their cadence is from where they live and their training and meetings and how, the young guys got to be at the facility more often. The older guys with families can gravitate further away from the facility because they understand the commitment and the timing. But I just think it's like treating guys really, really well. And their advice, I say guys, most of the people I work with in the sports world happen to be men, but I also work with their wives. I've worked with a couple female athletes as well. So it's not anything about that, but it's just what I can relate to and the people that I work with, and just understanding, where they're coming from, the urgency of their needs, what's a good time to buy, where to put their money, and really advising them, even if it's talking about a buying. That's the big thing.
Right. Even
first, we had some people down here in the last few years, again, not naming names, but early round draft picks in different sports. And, I was like, don't buy. Like, you don't even know the town yet. So what you're going to buy and what you don't even understand. The facility's 20 minutes away. The stadium's 45 minutes away. Where are you going to buy? Like, I would rent this first year, get the lay of the land, and then buy on that second year or halfway through your first if you feel comfortable. But there's a lot of times you just advise guys with good, honest options for them.
Yeah. I'm here with Greg Hitter, luxury real estate agent out of Scottsdale, Arizona. So, Greg, I was having a conversation with a mutual friend of ours, Eric Dungy, and and Eric,
Love
you
Eric.
mentioned, Eric's great. Eric's great. I told him I got to come down and see him, man. And so we going to have a good time in Tampa once I get around to it. Speaking of which, off subject, are you headed to Naples?
I am. Yep, with the crew. Yeah,
Okay, fun,
like
yeah.
75 of us going to be down there. You're going to be down there, I
I'll
take
be
it.
there. Yeah, I'll be there.
Nice.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time. But Eric and I were chatting, and he began to mention how he's seen more pro athletes looking to own real estate, and he's attributed to uh, the LeBron James effect, is what he called it. You know how LeBron, obviously, and we're talking about a different caliber of athlete and person, period. But how LeBron really set the bar in getting athletes to understand the pride of ownership. Um, I totally agree with you and understand fully the need to lease a property when necessary. But are you also beginning to see a shift with more athletes seeing the value of owning real estate as opposed to just renting?
Yes. So obviously that second contract, they
Yep.
usually buy, if not in the first. But they also own, like I just have two families that I've been talking to in pro sports, two different sports. They love short term and long term real estate plays.
Hmm.
They buy houses in different markets. Airbnb is a hot spot in Scottsdale, in Phoenix, and Paradise Valley. We have our hospitality industries here, big resorts. A lot of people are here in the to come and vacation and golf and see spring training. Our weather here from October through May or June is perfect, and then we're
Hmm.
super hot in the summer. But guys want to invest in rental properties, whether it be long term plays or short term Airbnb, VRBOs. We're seeing a lot of that in
Yeah.
different markets for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Going into the Scottsdale market, where are some of the hot spots where perhaps you'll see a little bit more cash flow versus appreciation, or is it all? Because I know obviously interest rates have changed a little bit. Um,
Right.
so I know, at least here in the North Carolina market, there's more investment play from an appreciation standpoint, buying in really good markets so that you're going to see, a long term return on your investment versus you're probably not
Right.
going to see as much cash flow. But what are you guys seeing there?
Yeah. So, by the way, I should have corrected you when we were in Indianapolis. My name's spelled Hitter, pronounced Hider, just for the
Oh,
listeners. Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you. Thank you.
yeah. But in baseball, they call me Hitter, right?
Yeah.
In football, they call me Hider.
I see it. I see
Anyway,
it. Thank you. Yeah.
to your question, we have a hot spot of Airbnbs in a certain zip code in Scottsdale, and the reason is because almost the entire zip code has no HOA.
Mm,
To be honest, there's a love-hate relationship with Airbnbs in this town because municipalities love the tax dollars, right?
yeah.
When you have a one-off, I'm going to go down a tangent, but when you have a one-off landlord, maybe he's got a handful of properties, there's a good chance that he may not be paying his rental tax, right? Because it's a
Mm,
one or two or three off kind of person or investor. But what the municipalities love is when you rent your property short term through Airbnb,
hmm.
Airbnb pays that rental tax like clockwork, and
Okay.
it increases revenue because there's more people. It's highest and best use for the property,
Yeah.
and it increases values in that area. With that said, some of the municipalities here have come up with posses. They call it a posse to be able to manage the pluses and minuses of Airbnbs, whether it be a late night call or a party situation, or be able to space them out so there's not too many in a certain neighborhood. But specifically to your question, no HOA. I'm going to give away a trade secret.
Hmm.
The 85254 zip code in Scottsdale, to me, is the number one place for a short term rental because the
Mm,
entire property, it's a Scottsdale address. Golfers love it. Families love it because it's got that Scottsdale address, but most of it's no HOA. Single level homes you can buy for 600 to 800,000. Some are into the millions now.
hmm.
Easy access to shopping, golf, restaurants, bars, clubs. airports. And so that's most of what I see is in that 85255. Don't tell anybody I told you though.
I won't. I won't. Oh man, that is interesting. I didn't realize that part about Airbnb paying a rental tax. Is that
some people call it a sales tax, rental tax? So when we're here, like if I have a one-off landlord, I'm a landlord, I have to pay a rental tax. I forget. I want to say it's 1.8% in Scottsdale. It might be more. I just went through it the other day, but you have to pay that. And, it's hard to find one guy or somebody that's got 2 or 3 houses to be able to enforce that because the municipalities don't know. But once you put it into Airbnb's hands, they pay that as part of that whole fee, that whole structure.
I see. Got it. Let's switch gears a little bit. Talk about prime locations. Where are those? I mean, when I see the listings you put out, man, some of the listings you put out, dude. I mean, I'll see an 8 million, a 10 million, a 14 million. I mean, talk a little bit about why those prime locations are so valuable, but also why those are actually good investments for people. Because, I mean, they're not just putting money out for no reason. I mean, they're also good investments.
Mm-hmm. Right. They're good investments. And so our luxury landscape has changed over the last 3 to 5 years. Uber luxury for us used to be, call it 4 to 7 million. Now it's, 10 to 20. We're seeing some $30 million spec homes being built. And I believe the accumulation of wealth for the baby boomer class and all the way down has been amazing, which is great for our business. But most importantly, Arizona is very desirable. It's one of the fastest growing counties, Maricopa County, in the country, and has been for many years. And what attracts people here, especially from California and some of the other high tax states, our state income tax last year, February of 2023, got lowered to 2.5% flat.
Oh, yeah.
And they stepped it down from the 5-6 range. It might have been 6-8 at the high. I can't remember, but the point is the 2.5 is now being able to compete with the no tax of Washington, Nevada, Texas, and Florida, other desirable areas that people move to. So the 2.5 is a great magnet for uber luxury, anybody, to be honest, because California's got a 12 or 13% state income tax. And nobody wants to move to Texas or Florida anyway, do they? No, I'm kidding with you. All my Texas and Florida people out there.
Wait till I tell Ben Moss what you said.
Right, exactly. No, I love those states. But it does, it puts us on par. The other part is we don't have natural disasters, right? So our insurance situation isn't what is happening in Florida and California. We have a stable weather environment. Yeah, we know it's going to be hot in the summertime, but it's the same every year. It tweaks a few degrees here and there, and it might be hot for longer. Tech companies love us. Data centers love us. We have a diverse workforce coming here. We used to be all hospitality and real estate, so we have this diverse workforce. People are moving their companies here from other states because the owners, the CEOs love the climate. The business climate's very, very favorable. Real estate's still fairly affordable in the non-luxury areas. And people love the weather, even in the summertime.
To the point of the general market, I mean, what is that like right now? What's are you guys in the seller's market, buyer's market? Yeah. What's inventory like?
Yeah. So in the luxury and uber luxury, like the 3 million plus, 5 million plus range, is sort of flat, but it's active. Yeah. Right. So we're not seeing that huge spike that we saw over the last 24, 48 months. It cooled a little bit after last season. But in the non-luxury, the 2 million less, 500 to 2 million range, it's like popcorn. Like we put one the other day, a friend of mine, a business acquaintance had a property in Phoenix, put it on 5 offers in the first weekend, 50 people do the open house. Non-luxury, I call it, but still a great house. We had it on for $775. It sold for $790. 5 offers, they were happy. And so we're trending. And most of the appraisers will tell me in the non-luxury markets, in most of the good markets, they're adjusting 1% a month upward for value increase.
Really?
So we're back to 8 to 12%. Some would say 5 to be sort of conservative, but we're seeing some markets, non-luxury, start to creep up there very, very rapidly again. And then the uber luxury, when I say flat, it's not bad. It's just flat. It's not, doesn't have that increase that we have. We didn't get that big spike this year, January, February, March. Like our big luxury selling season is, our town is packed January, February, March. We didn't get that big spike, but it's still pretty active. Things are still strong.
I see. Heading into the spring market, what's your projection like? Do you think you guys are going to see more competitive offers, or more multiple offers, I should say?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we'll have multiple offers in the non-luxury sector. It's going to, especially when I have buyers on the sidelines, and I keep telling them, look, when competition comes back into play, prices are going to spike, and you're going to miss out. So we either need to change your parameters, your expectations, or increase your price point. One of those two, because come, June, July, August, September, when we start to see some of these rates, because they've been promising us for a while now, some of those rates are going to soften. And once that happens, when we get back into the 5s on rates, even low 6s, our inventory levels aren't there to feed the demand that's going to happen. And you're going to have a bidding war again, just like we did on that property I told you about a few weeks ago. So, but then the uber luxury, I don't think we're going to have a total. Our summers used to be pretty desolate as far as luxury sales. June, July, August, everyone leaves. And then they start to come back when school gets back in session. It starts to cool off in September, October. And then we're back to, a full house again, as far as people being here. But I hope that answers your question. Yeah. I think nobody has a crystal ball, but I don't know if I told you this when we were chatting, but I heard a stat. Was at a Compass luxury retreat in Southern California last month. And somebody from Wealth Engine, one of the Wealth X advisors who advises luxury brands, said that in the next 8 years, the baby boomers will be transferring $3 trillion of wealth.
Good gosh. Yeah.
I don't know what the number is, but in the next 20 years, it goes up to like double-digit trillions.
Right.
So the largest accumulation of wealth has happened in the baby boomer demographic, and that's going to start transferring to their next of kin, right? Their family members, and however they want to, move their wealth to whatever their estate plan,
sure,
right? Whatever their will says. So I believe that, combined with the demand for our market that's happening. I've been here 36 years. Our market's been in demand since for years. We're the 5th largest metro area in the country. I think you told me that.
I think you told me that in Indianapolis, and I didn't realize that. I said, really? Yeah,
it's super spread out.
Yeah,
super spread out. So we don't have that density that you see in, New York and Chicago, or even Houston. It's New York, Chicago, New York, LA, Chicago, Houston, and then us. Yeah. And we're bigger than Philadelphia, I think, is 6. So we flip-flop with them for a few years, but I think we've been holding down the 5th spot for quite a while. So it's a big city. It's just super spread out.
In a new construction space, are you guys seeing a lot of houses coming out of the ground? Are builders able to get stuff clear, get stuff approved through the permitting process, et cetera?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of these big master plan communities. Toll Brothers, some of the bigger builders are still buying up land and building. And then the uber luxury, I don't know if you know this, but our uber luxury is taking 2 to 4 years to build.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a long. And so people will come here, buy a lot, and start the building processes and buy a house to stay in while they're managing that 2 to 4 year time frame for them to build, depending on how intricate the house is and if it's on, if it's hillside or if it's just flat. Yeah, it can take 2 to 4 years.
I got to get out there, man. I really want to, lay eyes on the real estate that you guys have out there, and even a lot of the land opportunity that's being acquired by a lot of the builders, especially not just the big builders, but even the smaller guys. I mean, are they doing more? The smaller guys, are they doing more of the infill stuff?
Yeah. So when you say smaller, like a boutique
Yeah,
luxury custom
yeah,
builder, yeah, we have a handful, well, many really good boutique builders here that
yeah,
know, that have been here a long time. Here's a quick story just to give you an idea of
yeah.
how the luxury world's increased. We had a guy in our office, I think it was this time last year, maybe 10 months ago. He sold 1 acre in Paradise Valley, a little bit elevated,
Hmm.
but buildable. Most of it you could use. 7 million for the dirt.
For the dirt,
Yeah,
1 acre.
1 acre, just over an
Good
acre.
gosh.
Yeah, 7 for the dirt. Then you got
So
to figure
he's
they're gonna spend 1,000 a foot to build it or more.
yeah. That's
So
going to
yeah,
be that's going to easily be about a $20 million house.
yeah, you'd think.
Yeah,
So, and then all the way down, it used to be everything hovered in Paradise Valley around 1 million. Now
yep.
it's 2 at the low end to 7 was that record setter for an acre. And then we're starting to see 3 and 5 acre parcels. It's the demand is big and it's very scarce to find.
Wow, that is very interesting. Um, whew, $1 million. Excuse me. Yeah, you said 1 million for 7 acres. I mean, no. What? Say that number
7 million
again.
for 1 acre. 7 million for 1 acre.
I'm sorry. I'm just
Isn't
trying to
that
wrap my
crazy?
brain around it. I
I
mean,
know. But
that
the
is
thing is, too, as a whole, I tell that, but as a whole, Phoenix is still, I think, affordable. I mean,
sure.
there doesn't mean you have to live in. I don't live in Paradise Valley
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because of that. So there's other neighborhoods. I live 5 minutes from Paradise Valley, but there's other good suburbs. Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert, Queen Creek, Southeast Valley is growing very, Mesa's always been a good, North Phoenix, West Phoenix. We have Goodyear and Peoria and Glendale and Buckeye. I mean, we're growing 365 degrees and we're not going to
Yeah.
stop until we touch LA.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Talk a little bit about your entertainment districts. Where are those hubs? Where would people go and generally have dinner and, go to
Right.
the fun bars and, the fun, clubs and shopping, et
Sure.
cetera. Yeah,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
are those?
Right. So that's a lot of stuff. So Old Town Scottsdale is known for the younger generation for bars and restaurants. There are some good places to eat down there, but people my age end up leaving, they eat and they get out of there before it gets too crazy. But it's, I know some of the owners down there and they've done a really good job kind of revitalizing Old Town. But all the restaurants, I shouldn't say all, a lot of restaurants in Old Town, really good shopping at Fashion Square, high-end
Hmm.
shopping. But then as you go north, like Scottsdale is, I believe it's 13 or 14 miles north and south, and only
Okay.
like 2 or 3 miles wide. So it's
Okay.
really long and narrow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you go up to North Scottsdale in the 85255, and you're in North Scottsdale, a lot of golf and restaurants and country clubs. One of the most well-known country club in the Western States is Silverleaf Country Club. You have Estancia, that's Bubba Watson's home course.
Hmm.
A lot of pro golfers are here. So there's all these. We're sort of sleepy at night. It's almost like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
North Scottsdale is sleepy. The only thing that's not sleepy is Old Town.
Yeah.
But then also Chandler has its own little downtown. Queen Creek and Gilbert have their own little downtowns. So it's very fragmented. It's not like when you're in Chicago where everyone, you're in Chicago visiting and, you go downtown for all the action. But so we have multiple areas depending on what you're looking for.
How far are you guys from LA? About drive. Yeah, driving.
6 hours.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
And then I would
5
imagine.
hours to San Diego, an hour flight to LA,
Yeah.
4 hour drive to Vegas, 4.5 hours, 45-minute flight. We're the gateway to the West.
Yes, you are. Absolutely. So if you
Yeah.
want to go to the beach, you just generally hop on a flight to
a lot
Cali.
of people in Arizona end up in San Diego beaches, Coronado Island, which is off of San Diego. I take my kids. We've been. I had a business, and we had a lot of time I spent in LA, so we gravitated towards Manhattan Beach. in Los
Yeah.
Angeles County, but all up and down the coast. Like that's our getaway in the summer. You do 2 or 3 good long weekend beach trips. Some clients I have are gone for 1 or 2 months in the summertime. July is a big month for everyone to be away.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the crazy part about our market. In 85255 North Scottsdale,
Yep.
I think 65 to 70% of the homeowners are non-owner. They're absentee owners, meaning they're
I
primary
was going to
residents
ask you that. Yeah.
primary residence in another state.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 You got a lot of people that don't even live there that own real estate there.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
what kept us active during the quick down, when the market shifted in June of 2022, I call it June 1st, was like the market changed. What really kept us active is because the inventory shrunk and there was nowhere to buy, so people weren't selling.
Yep.
A lot of our second and third homeowners, right, non-owner occupied, were able to let some of that inventory go because they weren't concerned about where they were going to move to because their primary residence was in another state or they had 2 or 3 homes.
Yeah. Did you guys also have, especially during that pandemic time, a lot of the corporate buyers coming in, buying up a lot of houses, hedge funds?
We had, the big cash buyers that we don't see as much anymore.
No.
The offer pads and the open doors. And we still have some wholesalers that are doing deals and buying stuff. But for the most part, we're back to more. There's probably a percentage on the books. It might be, I got to say, it's less than 15% of where we have institutional cash in the market. It might be higher, but for the most part, they don't get in our way like they were getting in our way back in 2019 and 2020.
Yeah.
Meaning they had their business and we were almost competing with, okay, well, I have this cash offer. Why would I list my house? There was times where we could pretty much always get them more money even after fees. But there was a few times where I was like, hey, take the cash offer. That's not so true anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah. We've seen that group. I mean, they're non-existent for the most part now.
Yeah.
I know Open Door, as an example, has a few listings out there that they're trying to get off the books, and God bless them. I mean, they're reducing prices like left and right, but that's kind of what it is. Right. I got to ask you this. What is your take on the NAR settlement? All of that stuff going on with that. What's your take?
I didn't want to dive in right away. I've been kind of contemplating my mindset moving forward. I have a couple people that I'll lean on for strategic business decisions on how do we manage this with our clients, because it's going to be a conversation. So I don't have all the answers, but I do know this. There's changes in every industry. There's been the last major change in our industry, I believe, was the implementation of third-party sites for listings, right? When the listings went from MLS only to all the other third-party sites. I don't even like to name the names, but you get what I'm saying.
I do.
I believe this is one of those moments to where we're going to see a lot of people leave the business that don't know how to navigate and change. Most importantly, guys like us and people in our group in the sports and entertainment, and specifically Compass as a whole, a lot of agents are going to up their game. I believe that we are going to increase our service level. I picked up a book the other day and it's perfect timing. Have you ever heard about the book Unreasonable Hospitality?
No. I like the name.
I'm only on chapter 2 or 3, but it's this whole mindset around how to create a level of service that's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And I try and do that a lot, but it's even more important now because to create value, to show the value as an expert in our industry, you and I and everybody we surround ourselves with, I believe we're going to have to take it from the high level we're at to even a higher level, to almost like a management concierge, almost
Agreed.
like a lifestyle concierge from start to finish.
Yeah.
And so I know that's a long answer and it's not specific to what you asked, but I'm sort of taking my time without rushing to judgment on how it's going to affect our industry. I think it's going to have a lot of effects. I just don't know how and when, but we'll be ready.
Absolutely. No, I think that's fair. And internally, we've been having a lot of conversations about it, just talking about, providing a valuable service to the customer. And it just really all goes to that. I mean, it's, for those who feel uncomfortable doing that, then perhaps that's, this isn't the career for them anyhow. But for those who are ready to really, put our foot on the gas in that manner, I mean, that's what's going to happen. And so I'm thrilled. I mean, this is an opportunity. You get a challenge. Now it's time to figure out how to get over it and dive into the opportunity.
I will say that I believe the way the media portrayed the settlement and the changes wasn't fair, not just to the industry, but also to the consumer.
Yeah,
I also feel like people don't realize everyone's always had a choice.
Yep.
Buyers and sellers have always had choices. Fees have never been set. There's never been a standard. There might have been, certain, I say attorneys, like if I ask 10 attorneys what their fees are for a specific special law practice, like let's say an accident attorney, I'm going to get probably the same answer 10 out of times as far as fees go. So the fees is same with financial advisors. All due respect to my financial advisor friends out there, it's like there's industries where they have very similar fee structures. Doesn't mean there's collusion or any of that going on, that they're fixed. They've always been negotiable, and on the buy side and the sell side. So it's just a matter of where's it going to fall? What are the changes? How do we educate our clients? As a buyer, I always say this, as a buyer, if you go unrepresented, that's like going to divorce court, sharing an attorney with your wife.
Yes.
Or your husband, right? And you wouldn't do that. So the other thing I tell, and this has happened even before this settlement, I've had buyers that don't want to commit, right? And so I have a conversation. I just said, hey, you feel like you have 5 people representing you, but you actually don't have anybody representing you.
Yeah.
And so buyers are going to have decisions, and they've always had similar decisions. It's just a different discussion. I think the key is, how do we service the buyer client and the seller client at the highest level, and everything else will work itself out.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question for you, Greg Hyder. I'm a pro athlete. If I'm a pro athlete thinking about investing in real estate, what should I start doing now to prepare myself for that venture?
Great question. Everybody has a different level, whether it be the money they have to invest, the area where they want to invest. I would say sit down with your financial advisor and a trusted real estate advisor, and sit down and just collaborate, and a CPA. That's always beneficial, especially when you're getting into the long-term holds, rental properties and accumulation, whether it be residential or commercial. But surround yourself with the right people and get different ideas, and like we're a hotbed for long-term rentals and short-term commercial as well. But our market isn't for everybody. I see guys gravitate towards where they're comfortable. It might be the region or the city or the state where they grew up or where they played. Right. And they're surrounded by people that believe in that area and they have opportunity. So I would say sit down with your advisor, your financial advisor, a trusted realtor, and a CPA, and just go from there, set a foundation, and then come up with a plan.
I love it. Greg, man, such a wealth of information. Really appreciate your time today.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, please.
Who's going to win in a race, me or you?
You said in a race? Sprinting?
Remember I started the conversation with I ran a 4.9 once?
Yeah, I do remember. Today, Greg, you might get me, man. I haven't been doing too much sprinting. So you might have a chance. You may have a chance.
Right. I knew I was in trouble in college football when the coach pulled me over like week 1 of camp. I was a freshman.
Yeah.
And I thought I was big stuff. Second team All-State. The guy that was first team played in the NFL. I thought, hey, he pulled me over. He goes, Hyder, you know what I like about you? And I said, what, coach? What? He says, you may be small, but you're slow.
I like that. That's good.
Right.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, Mr. Greg Hyder, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you, sir.
Appreciate you, man. We'll see you in Naples. I can't wait.
Absolutely. All right.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Can't stop, we can't lose. You can't win if you snooze. So do more and say less. So get up and let's work and be the best. Yeah, you're tuned in to the Steve Gunner Podcast. Yeah, the Steve Gunner Podcast. You're tuned in to the Steve Gunner Podcast.